Preventive measures encouraged at flood-prone areas. Successful humanitarian and economic missions at APEC Summit. Good evening and Salam Malaysia Madani. You're watching Malaysia Tonight. I'm Jessica Lee. Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Dr. Ahmad Zahid Hamidi urged all residents, especially those in flood-prone areas, to take appropriate preventive measures following the severe level continuous heavy rain warning for Terengganu and Kelantan until tomorrow.
In a Facebook post today, the Deputy Premier also advised them to obey the instructions issued by the authorities from time to time. Commenting further, the Deputy Premier also said he prays and hopes that the flood situation can be avoided and that it will not lead to loss of lives and damage to property. Met Malaysia, in a statement yesterday, informed that the situation is expected to occur statewide in Terengganu, as well as at several areas in Kelantan, namely Tumpat, Pasir Mas, Kota Baru, Jeli, Tanah Merah, Bachok, Machang, Pasir Puteh and Kuala Krai from 18th November. Met Malaysia informed that an alert level continuous rain is also expected in several areas in Kelantan, Kedah, Perak, Pahang and Sabah during the same period. In Kelantan, this is expected to occur in Gua Musang, while in Kedah, Langkawi, Kubang Pasu, Kota Seta, Pokok Sena, Padang Terap, Yan, Pendang, Kuala Muda, Sik and Baling will be affected. The same situation is also expected to occur in Perak, Hulu Perak and Kuala Kangsar, Pahang, Jerantut, Maran, Kuantan, Pekan and Rompin, and Sabah, Ranau, Kota Belud, Telupid, Kinabantangan, Beluran, Sandakan and Kudat.
The Domestic Trade and Cost of Living Ministry, or KPDN, aims to involve 10,000 university students in consumer advocacy program held at 20 selected universities in Kedah. Now, as Deputy Minister Fuzia Saleh said, the ministry aims to reach the target in the first 3 months of the program, and that the program was being held for the first time at the National Youth Skills Institute, or IKBN, in Jitra today, followed by University Utara Malaysia, or UUM.
When met by reporters, Fuzia said KPDN is also holding the Rahmah Siswa Sale program at the same time, as it is important for students from the B40 group and from families in need. She added that the Rahmah Sale concept will be expanded to universities following requests from students who want the sales held on campus.
Tapi yang ini memang daripada KPDN yang memang kita extend dan kita panjangkan jualan rahmah ini kepada siswa. Sebab kita tengok apabila kita buat program jualan rahmah, kita lihat bahawa permintaan daripada pelajar itu ada, dan setiap kali saya pergi ke program-program yang melibatkan siswa, mereka meminta untuk diadakan jualan rahmah untuk siswa.
On developments of the floating of chicken prices, Fuzia said that monitoring was being conducted daily at 4 categories, namely wet markets, grocery shops, hypermarkets and mini markets. She said the ministry found that prices are still low throughout the country.
Higher Education Minister Datuk Seri Muhammad Khalid Nordin reminded higher education institutions in the country not to be too obsessed with the university ranking system. Now, he said it is not possible to measure all universities in general because each university was created with different goals.
He added that any given measure used may be suitable for developed countries, but not suitable for most other countries. Therefore, Datuk Seri Muhammad Khalid said, the ranking can only be used to see where the position is, but not as a basis for a university to be excellent, of quality or not.
Kita tidak perlu taksub sebab saya ingat sudah ada banyak kenyataan dan juga penulisan-penulisan mengenai ranking. Dan banyak juga badan-badan antarabangsa termasuk United Nations yang melahirkan kebimbangan supaya kita tidak terima ranking bulat-bulat begitu.
He said this to reporters after officiating the University Science Malaysia Hospital's HUSM 40th anniversary in Kubang, Korean today. Earlier in his speech, Datuk Seri Muhammad Khalid asked all university teaching hospitals in the higher education system to cooperate and share resources, expertise and move strategically.
Now, the Health Ministry is concerned over the increase in hypertension or high blood pressure and diabetes cases in the country due to the failure to do early screening. Minister Dr. Zaliha Mustafa said early screening is crucial as both are chronic diseases which can result in complications from damage to vital organs such as the kidneys, eyes and heart if left untreated.
Dr. Zaliha also said that the MOH has set a target of conducting 1.5 million health screenings this year under the National Health Screening Initiative.
Supaya apabila penyakit-penyakit ini dikesan lebih awal, maka rawatan lebih awal dapat dilakukan dan mengelakkan pula komplikasi. Ya. Jadi seperti yang kita tahu, bila berlaku komplikasi lebih banyaklah kesan terhadap bukan kesihatan diri juga kepada ekonomi keluarga dan juga ekonomi negara. Jadi itu pentingnya saringan. Kita memang menggalakkan saringan dan kita mensasarkan sehingga 1.5 juta saringan untuk tahun ini.
She said this to reporters after officiating the state-level Madani Afiat and the Agenda National Malaysia Sihat Tour at Sekolah Menengah Kebangsaan Bukit Gambe, Pulau Pinang today.
Next up in our business segment, enhance connectivity with Indonesia to boost tourism. Now, the core values and importance of multilateralism, especially for emerging economies like Malaysia, and the need for humanity to prevail beyond political alliances were among the core messages that Prime Minister Datuk Seri Anwar Ibrahim emphasised in San Francisco. Now, his message on every platform at the 30th APEC Economic Leaders Summit was simple and clear. The killing and atrocities in Gaza have to stop, and there were no two ways about it.
Besides Malaysia, Brunei and Indonesia were the other two member economies out of the 21 member economies that spoke on the conflict in West Asia.
We had the opportunity to express, after this international conference, the important aspects that we are able to articulate our position, engage privately, and discuss intimately some of these issues, and not in a combative mode, but at least to secure understanding and collaboration.
On the topic of trade and investment, Datuk Seri Anwar, who is also the finance minister, opined that the APEC should remain a platform where all nations come together to develop strategies that stimulate economic progress while maintaining the highest standards of cooperation and respect. He said member economies, particularly those that fall under the emerging category, such as Malaysia, have benefited immensely from such collaboration in both trade and investment.
The official visit of Deputy Prime Minister Datuk Seri Fadillah Yusof to China ended successfully, with the country committing to closer cooperation, especially in the fields of agriculture and palm oil commodities.
Datuk Seri Fadillah, who is also the Plantation and Commodities Minister, said that the country, with a population of around 1.4 billion, has committed to increase palm oil exports to 3.4 million tonnes next year, compared with the estimated 3.14 million tonnes so far.
Dan juga apa yang dipersetujui hasil perbincangan ialah dari segi untuk kita eratkan kerjasama dari segi pendidikan, research and development. Satu utamanya dalam bidang minyak sawit dan juga pertanian yang lain. Bagaimana teknologi yang ada di China ini dapat kita jalinkan kerjasama dengan entiti kita. Kita tahu Madi pun dah ada kerjasama, tapi kita nak kukuhkan lagi. Bagaimana kita nak tingkatkan pengeluaran hasilan kita. Tak kiralah dari segi padinya, dari segi yang lain-lain juga, produk-produk lain. Sebab kita melihat cabaran masa depan ialah dalam sektor perdagangan adanya sekatan daripada EUDR. Kita tidak dapat membuka ladang-ladang baru bermula tahun 2020. Maknanya kita kena fokuskan dengan jumlah yang ada itu, ladang yang dah ada, bagaimana kita nak tingkatkan pengeluaran supaya kita dapat memenuhi bukan saja keperluan dalam negara kita, tapi bagaimana kita nak dapat tingkatkan ekspor ke negara luar.
China has been Malaysia's largest trading partner for the past 14 years. In 2022, the value of Malaysia's agri-commodity exports to China contributed 12.8% of Malaysia's total agricultural commodity exports in the international market, with a value of 26.46 billion ringgit, an increase of 11% compared with 2021. The value of palm oil-based products exports to China in 2022 was 16.41 billion ringgit, while the value of Malaysia's palm oil exports to China in the same year was 8.44 billion ringgit.
The Malaysian ambassador to Indonesia, Datuk Syed Muhammad Hasrin Tengku Hussein, is optimistic about improving tourist arrivals between Malaysia and Indonesia through enhanced connectivity.
Commenting further on the matter, he said despite current connectivity not reaching pre-pandemic levels, both countries are connected with the reopening of routes such as Jakarta-Kuching-Jakarta by AirAsia Indonesia and Kertajati-Kuala Lumpur-Kertajati by AirAsia Malaysia and Malaysia Airlines. He said the emergence of a new airline, TransNusa, also provides an alternative for Malaysia-Indonesia travel. He also said his meetings with the provincial governments of North Sumatra, Riau and West Kalimantan had renewed hope for improved connectivity between Malaysia and Indonesia to benefit their people, nations and the region. Malaysia's aim is to attract 15.6 million international tourists this year, specifically targeting 2.68 million Indonesian tourists. In the first half of this year, Malaysia recorded 1.45 million Indonesian tourist arrivals and approximately 1.2 million Malaysians visiting Indonesia, facilitated by air connectivity of 590 flights per week.
Gastronomic tourism concept promotional activities involving local cuisines and unique culinary traditions will continue to be strengthened to attract more tourists to Pahang.
State Unity, Tourism and Culture Committee Chairman Leong Yu Man said each district in Pahang has a unique signature dish that should be highlighted, such as ikan patin or silver catfish in Temerloh, Musang King durian, raub, lemang toki, bentong, pudding raja, pekan and seafood, as well as various hipster cafes around Kuantan. She said gastronomic tourism can also increase the income of the entrepreneurs, including youths, who are involved in the hipster cafe business, such as in Kuantan, which currently has many cafes featuring such a concept. The State Exco noted that Kuantan has recorded the presence of 1.5 million tourists as of September, which showed that the variety of events and promotions can attract the presence of tourists, including food-based tourism. On another development, Leong said Pahang recorded the arrival of more than 9 million domestic and international tourists as of September, and she was optimistic that the set target of 13 million this year could be achieved.
A total of 533 employees of the cash-strapped low-cost airline My Airlines in Berhad have submitted applications to obtain the benefits of the Employment Insurance System or Scheme or SIP under the Social Security Organisation SOCSO as of yesterday.
Human Resources Minister V. Sivakumar said out of that number, SOCSO has approved 277 applications thus far. Elaborating further on the matter, he said that his ministry will ensure that My Airline employees are not oppressed despite the status of their service contract.
Untuk setakat ini, kita semua tahu kalau mereka sememangnya telah pun diberhentikan, maka mereka boleh mendapat faedah daripada perkeso. Dan untuk itu kita nak dapatkan kepastian sama ada mereka ini benar-benar telah diberhentikan ataupun tidak.
SIP aims to provide financial assistance to workers who have lost their jobs until they find new employment. Previously, My Airline announced the suspension of its operations with effect from 12 October until further notice, among other things due to financial pressures, which caused operations to be suspended pending shareholder restructuring and company recapitalization. On 2nd November, SOCSO Group Chief Executive Officer Datuk Seri Dr. Muhammad Azman Aziz Muhammad said that the agency has carried out 5 intervention programs to help alleviate the problems faced by My Airline employees.
The East Coast Rail Link or ECRL passenger train will travel at a maximum speed of 160 kilometers per hour upon the commencement of commercial operations in January 2027 from Kota Baru, Kelantan to Integrated Transport Terminal or the ITT in Gombak, Selangor.
Malaysia Rail Link Sdn Bhd (MRL), the project owner of the ECRL, in a statement said its rail infrastructure including foundation works, rail track, rail signalling system and rolling stock have been specifically developed based on a design of less than 200 kilometers per hour. On that note, MRL emphasized that the ECRL remained a fast train for passengers only and could not be upgraded or converted into a high-speed train under current engineering specifications and operating systems. MRL also highlighted that the ECRL was designed primarily for cargo transportation, with 70% of its revenue ratio during operation projected to be derived from freight and 30% from passengers. It said, therefore, the ECRL passenger service that had been added was largely constrained by the design requirements for its freight trains. The ECRL passenger train would be able to link Kota Baru with ITT Gombak in 4 hours when operational in January 2027.
Tenaga Nasional Berhad or TNB is poised to forge partnerships with governments, investors and key stakeholders to accelerate responsible energy transition or ET while addressing the energy trilemma, reflecting its continued unwavering commitment to driving sustainable development initiatives in ASEAN.
TNB President and Chief Executive Officer Datuk Seri Baharudin said there is a need for a responsible ET to address the rapidly increasing demand for electricity and emphasized that TNB is prepared to meet this demand while reducing emissions. He said within the ASEAN region, the goal is to source 3,000 gigawatt of capacity from clean energy. Currently, ASEAN has installed 95 gigawatt of thermal fuel and 188 gigawatt of renewable energy, RE, and by 2050, the region aims to reach over 2,700 gigawatt of RE. Highlighting that policy, green technology and funding are key enablers of a successful ET. Datuk Seri Baharudin stressed the substantial investment required to achieve ASEAN's net zero goals by 2050. He also said strategic partnerships are key to advancing Malaysia's ET goals, of which, to date, TNB has signed 29 memoranda of understanding with local and international partners in various ET fields, such as solar parks, integration of hydrogen and ammonia in power plants, interconnection and electric vehicles.
Israeli raids killed 2 Palestinians in the West Bank. That and more coming up in our foreign segment. Three boats filled with more than 500 Rohingya refugees landed in Indonesia's westernmost province today in one of the biggest arrivals since Myanmar launched a military crackdown on the minority group in 2017.
The mostly Muslim Rohingya are heavily persecuted in Myanmar, and thousands risk their lives each year on long and expensive sea journeys, often in flimsy boats, to try reach Malaysia or Indonesia. United Nations Refugee Agency Protection Associate Faisal Rahman said one boat had arrived in Aceh Province's Bireun district with 256 people aboard, while at least 239 others arrived in Aceh's PD region and a smaller boat carrying 36 arrived in East Aceh. The latest arrivals mean more than 800 refugees have landed in Aceh province this week alone, after 196 arrived on Tuesday and 147 on Wednesday. The refugees were being held at a temporary shelter while awaiting a decision from authorities on their fate and were mostly in good health. More than 2,000 Rohingya are believed to have attempted the risky journey to other Southeast Asian countries last year. Nearly 200 Rohingya died or went missing last year while attempting hazardous sea crossings.
At least 2 Palestinians were killed during Israeli army raids in the West Bank as violence surges in the occupied territory in tandem with the Israel-Hamas war.
According to the Palestinian Red Crescent, a 45-year-old man was killed in Jenin in the northern West Bank, and another person was killed in Diheshe refugee camp near Bethlehem further south. Overall, Israeli forces carried out at least 5 overnight operations in towns and refugee camps across the West Bank. Following 18 months of steadily escalating violence in the West Bank, the Israeli regime have clamped down further since 7th October, making hundreds of arrests and conducting regular raids that have resulted in clashes. Israeli forces and settlers have also killed more than 200 Palestinians in the West Bank since the start of the Israeli-Hamas war.
Now, SpaceX made progress in the second test launch of its mammoth Starship rocket, with the booster separating from the spaceship, but both then exploding shortly after over the ocean.
The largest rocket ever built blasted off from the company's starbase in Boca Chica, Texas, shortly after 7 a.m. local time. Unlike the previous such attempt in April, the booster rocket separated successfully from the mega ship but then blew up, followed shortly by the spaceship itself. Bill Nelson, head of the NASA Space Agency, which is awaiting a modified version of Starship to land humans on the moon, said yesterday's attempt showed progress. Compared to the first attempt to fly the spaceship in its fully stacked configuration back in April, Starship made it further into flight yesterday, with the booster breaking away from the ship before disintegrating. As the booster fell off, the upper stage started what was meant to be a partial trip around the Earth. It was scheduled to fall into the Pacific Ocean near Hawaii after 90 minutes, but it too blew up. SpaceX has insisted that explosions during the early stages of rocket development are welcome and help inform design choices faster than ground tests, though time is ticking down for a modified Starship to be ready for a planned lunar landing in 2025.
American superstar Taylor Swift postponed a show in Rio de Janeiro due to extreme heat after a fan died at the singer's concert venue the previous night.
The postponement came after the heat index in the city had risen to as high as 59 degrees Celsius on Friday, when a 23-year-old fan in the crowd of 60,000 died shortly before the Eras Tour show in Brazil. The Rio Health Secretariat reported that Ana Benavides died after suffering cardiorespiratory arrest in the Nilton Santos Stadium. It said efforts to revive the young woman failed and an investigation had been launched. Fans lashed out at the venue's handling of the heat, saying officials had prevented them from bringing in water. Brazil's Justice Ministry published a resolution requiring event organizers to guarantee that fans have access to drinking water. The concert has been moved to Monday. Swift could be seen in videos posted to social media from Friday trying to help fans by dispatching aides to pass out water bottles. Much of central and southeastern Brazil have been suffering an unusual oppressive springtime heat wave.
Coming up in sports, Wing Sun claims world title in Texas. National Wushu athlete Wong Wing Sun is now a world champion after winning a gold medal in the men's Changchuan event at the 2023 World Wushu Championships in Fort Worth, Texas.
The 31-year-old collected 9.826 points, beating Indonesia's Surafnaro Siraga, who took the silver medal, with 9.803 points, and compatriot Clement Ting Su Wei, who claimed the bronze with 9.00 points. It was a meaningful success for Wing Sun since he only won a silver medal in the same event in the 2019 edition in Shanghai. This is also his second career gold medal at the World Meet, having also won the men's Jianshu sword event in Kazan in 2017. The Malaysian contingent also won a silver medal in the men's Daoshu through Clement Ting Su Wei, 1 silver each from Sydney Chin Si Xuan and Lo Yin Ting for women's Tai Ji Jian and Chang Quan, and 1 bronze from Tan Cheong Min for the women's Nangun.
In F1, champion Max Verstappen of Red Bull overcame a 5-second penalty to win the inaugural Formula One Las Vegas Grand Prix. Now, Charles Leclerc of Ferrari was second after overtaking Sergio Perez in the other Red Bull in the final meters of the last lap.
Verstappen took the lead from pole sitter Leclerc at the start of the race, but was handed a 5-second penalty after pushing the Monegasque off the track. Leclerc tried to solve matters on track and made a move in lap 17 to overtake Verstappen, who then immediately pitted for new tyres and to serve his penalty. The Red Bull driver came out in 11th and started to climb up his way through the grid. The safety car was deployed in lap 25 after Verstappen made contact with George Russell in a dispute for 4th place, and the incident left debris on the track. After the restart, it did not take Verstappen long to overtake Perez, and then Leclerc to claim his 18th win of the season.
Britain's Elfyn Evans won the season-ending Rally Japan after leading for almost the entire race, while newly crowned world champion Kelly Rovanpera finished third.
Evans took control after the second stage and stayed in front for the rest of a rally held in wild weather conditions in central Aichi Prefecture. The course dried out slightly for the final day as Evans crossed the line 1 minute 17.7 seconds ahead of France's Sébastien Ogier and 1 minute 46.5 seconds in front of Rovanpera to give Toyota a 1-2-3 finish. It was Evans' third win of the season and consolidated his runner-up finish behind Rovanpera in the overall standings. Rovanpera had already wrapped up his second straight title at last month's Central European Rally. He was never really in contention after coming unstuck in heavy rain and fog early in the race. But he played his part in a triumphant homecoming for Toyota, who had already clinched their third straight manufacturer's title. Belgium's Thierry Neuville, who finished third in the overall championship standings, retired after crashing on stage 6 before rejoining the action a day later. Estonian Ott Tänak finished 6th in his final race for Ford, before joining Hyundai next season.
In MotoGP news, Italian Luca Marini smashed the lap record at the Lusail International Circuit in the second qualifying session to take pole position at the Qatar Grand Prix on Saturday.
On a day when the lap record was broken by several riders across the 2 qualifying sessions, Gresini Racing's Fabio Di Gianantonio was the first rider to dip below the 1 minute 52 second mark, and he was soon joined by teammate Alex Marquez. But as soon as the sun began to set in Lusail, where the track had been completely resurfaced, Marini went fastest on his final lap with a time of 1 minute 51.762 seconds for the second pole of his career after topping the charts in Indonesia last month. Marini's lap time was 1 second faster than the previous record, but the 26-year-old felt he could have gone faster. Marini will be joined on the front row by Di Gianantonio and Alex Marquez, while championship leader Francesco Bagnaia of Ducati will start 4th on the grid, 1 position ahead of fellow title contender Jorge Martin of Pramac Racing. Bagnaia leads Martin by 14 points with 2 rounds left in the MotoGP season. Meanwhile, Pramac Racing's Jorge Martin won the Qatar Grand Prix sprint to cut Francesco Bagnaia's World Championship lead to 7 points after the Ducati rider came 5th at the Lusail International Circuit. Martin, who started 5th on the grid, finished ahead of Gresini Racing's Fabio Di Gianantonio, with pole sitter Luca Marini of VR46 Racing taking the final place on the podium. Martin's victory ensured the battle for the Riders' Championship will stretch to the final round of the MotoGP season in Valencia next weekend. Bagnaia seemed to be struggling with grip on his rear tyre as he could do nothing to catch up with the leaders, finishing behind Gresini's Alex Marquez.
And that's it for this evening. In our top story, preventive measures encouraged at flood-prone areas. Do tune in to World Today, coming up tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. on TV2. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. I'm Jessica Lee. Thank you for joining us.